Welcome back. In this lesson we are going to start making the hanging pieces for our Stabile sculpture. Okay, now we've designed all of our pieces, we've cut out all of our little pieces here, and we are getting ready to start assembling them. If you flip your paper over and you look back to here, I said that I would give you a 6-inch piece for the main fulcrum, but I changed that to 12 inches just to give you some wiggle room in what you want. So here's one 12-inch piece. Then you're going to have a 6-inch piece for your first hanging piece, your 8-inch piece of wire for your next piece, 10-inch piece for the next one, and a 12-inch piece for the final top bar. You're also going to need at least 3 jump rings. These are little just bent wires that are bent into a circle, and perhaps a brad for making your final piece, which we'll talk about in just a second. So make sure you have those supplies. You might not get to use all of them in one session, but you can keep them in your folder for when you do need them. And right now I'll just push them off to the side. Going back to our design. In this picture, when I designed it, I was thinking of having this top fulcrum bend over, have a loop, have a jump ring, and then have the twist for this bar. You could also, that's what I'm going to call option number 2. Option number 1 is having this fulcrum piece pointing straight up and then have a cap on the top of it, which is what we'll do with our brad. Okay, if you're going to do that with your brad, you take the brad like this and you pull the 2 little legs all the way apart to expose that little inside piece, and then the brad legs get wrapped around your hanging part of your mobile. So if we look here at my Stabile sculpture here, you'll notice a couple different things. Number 1, I've used option number 1 here. I've got the little top piece and the brad wrapped over this area. The bars are going inside of my cardboard pieces, and I have the jump rings here suspending each of these hanging pieces so that it can move more freely. This one's still kind of in the stages of getting finished. I'm deciding whether I'll paint or do some paper mache on it. But you can kind of see how that is designed and how that hangs. Now, going back to actually starting to put it all together, I'm just going to take this model down and lie it on the table here, and you'll see this brad, how I've wrapped it around. And you'll see that my center part would go in there. But first of all, we need to start thinking about how you're going to be deciding on the balance. Now, this is going to be a interesting video because I'm going to have to keep switching back and forth between hanging things up and showing you them on the table here as I'm working. So it is going to be a little awkward, but we'll work with it. Anyways, the supplies that you will need as you get started are at least 1 pair of pliers to do some of the bending. You might want to share with your neighbor 2 because you'll need 2 of them to sometimes twist the wire a bit. You might want to have some kind of a measuring tape or a ruler if you want to use that. And I'll have a large pliers in class for cutting the pieces if you decide you want them shorter than what you've already got. Okay, just as a starter, let's look at a jump ring. To take a jump ring open or apart, you have to have 2 pliers like this, and then you just bend them, separating it like this sideways. Rather than trying to open it up and then close it, you just bend those sideways. So the ones that I give you will be at the point where they're just about closed, kind of like that, and then you'll just have to bend it open like that and bend it back closed once it's on your Stabile. Okay, so getting started, I'm going to take my 2 smaller pieces here, move this out of the way, and try to stick to your original design the best you can. I understand that at some point you're going to have to decide what you want to change and what you don't want to change, but let's try to stick with the main thing. Now, starting, you have to decide which way you want these things pointing. Do I want them this way? Do I want them one inside like this, or flipped around like that? You get to choose, and I'm going to choose this way, and I want the smaller one on this side. Okay, then you're going to decide which way or like how you want these stuck in, like this, and maybe this one straight in like that, so they're kind of done like this. All right, now as you start thinking, you're going to have to take these and put them and actually lock them into place. So at my old school, we had hot glue guns for every kid. In the school I'm currently in, I only have one glue gun for me, so I'll kind of have that setting out, and we'll kind of have a station for gluing. What you're going to do is you're going to take the ridge here that you would like to glue it in, and just kind of squish one little blob of hot glue in there, and then slide the wire into that hole with the hot glue. If you need to, I will have some bone folders, and you can just swipe off any of that excess glue so that it's not like dribbling all over the place, and then wipe it onto a paper towel. Okay, and I'll have some paper towels sitting at the station too. I'm going to utilize this curve here in my bending, so try to have that bent downward rather than upward, because that'll help gravity work with it. Okay, leave that cool for about a minute or so, and then start the next one here. I wanted it to be coming in through this crevice here, so I'm going to put my blob of hot glue there, slide my bar in, clean off that hot glue before it dries. Be very careful with the hot glue, it will burn you. Okay, this is a dangerous project, what with the razor blades and the hot glue, so be careful, please. Alright, now we've got this piece completed with the gluing anyways, and we'll move on to the hanging of it. Now I would like you to take a marker at your spot, and you'll also have like some kind of little tool that looks something like this that I've created for the class in order to like hang your pieces. So if I take this right now and I just hold it here and I kind of hang it, I have to find where that balance point is. Okay, now this might work for some of you. Others, you might just want to use your finger to find the balance point. So if I look here, I can find the balance point like this and just slide my finger back and forth until I get it where I want it. Now, if I'm going to have this one exactly parallel, let me just switch things around a bit here. Hold on. If I want this, exactly parallel here, I can take this and then mark on top here with the marker. And make a little mark right there so that the marker is going to show where I want that balance. Now if you want yours unbalanced and asymmetrical, like let's say I want it standing up like this, you're going to have to find where that balance point is, and it might be higher up, it might be lower down. You've got to find, you have to find where that balance point is and mark it. Okay, once you have that balance point marked, the complicated part sets in of what are you going to be doing with your bar. We need to make a loop here, and that loop is going to go something like this. This piece is going to come over, it's going to loop up and then back out like that. Okay, in order to have this piece looped like that, you're going to take this end and bend it around like that. Okay, making sure that wherever your center point is, let's say my center point is here, making sure that that center point stays in the middle. Alright, so getting started with that, you take your pliers. Here's that mark that I made, correct? You're going to start, you're going to have to hold one side still and just bend the other side upwards. Like that, and you can see how I've got that bend there. Then, as I bend this, I'm going to move this direction so that that bend ends up to be on the top. Now if I turn this a little bit, you can still see that little mark right there. The little mark is about there at this moment, which is good. I want to keep this bending and try to bend slowly. Sometimes it might be helpful, depending on where the bend is and what you've got going on, to hold it with 2 pliers. That might be helpful. It might actually hinder you in some respects. So think of what you need and ask your neighbor for the extra pliers if you need it. So here's my mark still right there, right where we want it, and bending that around. Okay, so it's looking something like that when you're done. This will ensure that whenever you put your jump ring here, it will actually sit nicely and be balanced. Now, if I put my little hanger in there, you'll see that this one hangs a little bit off. Now, if I'm okay with that, that's great. You can keep it that way. If you're not, you're going to have to adjust ever so slightly. And I actually kind of like how that looks on a diagonal. The only trick now is going to be the next one that I put on, keeping the diagonal the same. Okay, if I come back to my work area, with my work area, I like this bend here. I want to keep this area a little bit more flat, so I'm just going to bend it a little bit more up like that, so that this angle is a little bit more, and then while keeping this one stable, bend this back down. There we go. So that this has like a little more flow to that line. Alright, and I'm just going to check this out with my hook one more time. Yeah, good. I like how that's hanging. Now, once you've got this piece done, you need to put a jump ring on this center loop. Alright, so I'm going to grab my 2 pliers, open this jump ring up so that it looks like that, slide it through my loop, and as it's still in my loop, bend this jump ring back like so. Okay, now I've got that piece completed. Next, I'm going to set this piece aside for a moment and grab this bar, or this piece here. And if I want this to look like the same, I want this piece kind of going the same direction, I'm going to have to take a bar from here into here and put the loop somewhere in the middle, depending on which way I want it. Now, this is my 6-inch piece of wire. I'm going to take my 8-inch piece of wire here, and we're going to end up gluing it in like this. Okay, before we do that, I'm going to take this end, the end that's going to curve in here, and I'm going to bend this piece. Let me erase this. If I've got this bend here, I'm going to take this end and bend it back up like that, and leave a little space in there so I can clip it into my my jump ring. So I'm just going to take this, bend, bend, bend like that. Now I want this to hang down just a bit, so I'm going to take this whole area, bend it down like that. Okay, now this is going to clip into, and leave it open like that, is going to clip into there. Okay, and that's going to be able to hang my piece up like that. Okay, now I'm going to take the second piece and glue it in. I know that I want it coming into this little ridge right here, so I'm going to set a line of glue right in there. Take my wire and press it in. Clean off this extra hot glue, like so. Okay, allow that to sit for a minute or so to get dried off, or to rather cool off. Now as I put this in here, I want this piece to hang, this one's already hanging kind of up. I'm going to want this one to hang upwards as well. So I'll just move my other Stabile sculpture out of the way. Alright, and if I bend my camera yet again, okay, here is my piece. And I want this one hanging that way, and I want this one to be hanging about on the same angle. So I'm going to take that marker of mine, I'm going to draw right here where I want my bend to be, and if I put it too far over here, it's going to be hanging way up straight, and if I put it too far over there, it's going to be bent, want to bend down that way. So you really have to gauge exactly where you want that balance point to be. And one nice thing is that the flesh on your finger will help the metal from sliding off. So setting this back down and coming back to my workspace, I'm going to remove this piece, set it aside, and now I have to turn this end up and around and keep that little black area there in the middle. So I'm going to just start bending so that this black area is up. And you might have to use your finger to kind of force the wire to one side or the other. Here's my little black mark. It's looking like it's in a good place. It's a little bit too far to the side, but we'll see if I can get away with that. I might have to change this one around. Alright, so there's my loop, and I'm just gonna bend this one a little more evenly. Alright, so there's my line of wire. Okay, if I take this one and put it back on, and I take my little hanger device and hang it. Let's see how this turned out. Yeah, that's acceptable. Alright, I would probably want it to be bent up just a little more. So I wonder if I take this and just straighten it out a bit, how that will affect. There we go. That's about right. Alright, now if you need to change this loop, you have to undo the whole thing, which I will talk about more in the next video. But for what you want, this is starting to look pretty good. I'm going to leave it at these two pieces and come back in the next video and talk about hanging the other final two pieces.